Commander Zalthok of the Krexian Empire adjusted his four eyes as the holographic display materialized before him. The annual Galactic Dominance Rankings had just been released by the Academy of Celestial Sciences, and every species across the known universe waited for these results with bated breath or whatever breathing apparatus they possessed. The sleek corridors of his flagship, the Time's Eternal Conquest *, hummed with anticipation. Officers from a dozen different species moved about their duties, but Zalthok could sense their nervous energy. These rankings determined military funding, trade agreements, and political influence for the next standard year. "Sir, shall I project the full list?" asked his second-in-command, a six-armed Vorthen named Glix. "Do it," Zalthok commanded, his mandibles clicking with confidence. The hologram expanded, showing a list that stretched from floor to ceiling. At the top, as expected, sat the Krexians at position number 1. Their military might was legendary planet crackers, void destroyers, and a fleet that could darken entire star systems. Below them, the familiar hierarchy unfolded. Position 2 belonged to the Zephyrians, masters of psionic warfare, who could crush minds from light years away. Third place went to the mechanical constructs, beings of pure technology, who had converted entire sectors into computational matrices. The Thermal Lords held fourth, wielding the power of stars themselves as weapons. Zalthok nodded approvingly as he scanned down the list. Everything seemed in order. The great empires maintained their positions, the mid-tier species held their expected ranks, and the lesser civilizations clustered toward the bottom where they belonged. "Interesting," Glix observed, pointing one of his arms at position 57. The Quillari moved up 3 positions this year. Their new bioweapon development must have impressed the Academy. "Expected," Zalthok replied dismissively. "They've been pouring resources into their research programs." As they continued down the list, Zalthok felt satisfaction warming his multiple hearts. The natural order remained intact. Strong species dominated weak ones, as it should be. The Academy's calculations took into account military strength, technological advancement, territorial control, population, resource production, and dozens of other factors. It was the most comprehensive measure of galactic power ever devised. "Sir," another officer called from across the bridge, "there's chatter coming in from other fleets. Some of the rankings seem unusual this year." Zalthok's antennae twitched. "Unusual how?" "Several species are expressing confusion about placements in the lower tiers. Apparently, there are some surprises." The commander turned back to the hologram, scrolling down past the familiar powerhouses. The middle ranks held the expected faces: the crystalline shard collective, the gaseous nebula walkers, the hive-minded swarm queens. Everything looked normal. As they moved into the lower hundreds, Zalthok began to see what the chatter was about. Some species had jumped dozens of positions, seemingly overnight. The Klexi had moved from position 847 to 623. The Morvaki had leaped from 1,204 to 891. "These calculations must be in error," Zalthok muttered. "How could the Morvaki advance so dramatically? They barely have fusion technology." Glix manipulated the controls, highlighting the Morvaki entry. According to the Academy data, they've made significant advances in quantum mechanics and have successfully colonized 17 new systems in the past year. 17? Zalthok's mandibles spread wide in surprise. That's impossible. Last year, they had trouble maintaining life support on their own homeworld. The bridge fell silent as more data streams came in from across the galaxy. Species after species was reporting dramatic changes in the rankings, most of them involving relatively unknown civilizations, making impossible leaps forward. "Sir, I'm receiving a priority message from High Command," reported the communications officer. A nervous Skrillian, whose scales had turned a worried shade of purple. "Put it through." The image of Supreme Admiral Korv materialized, his usually composed features twisted with concern. "Zalthok, are you seeing these rankings?" "Yes, Supreme Admiral. There appear to be some anomalies in the lower tiers." "Anomalies?" Korv's laugh held no humor. "Commander, Scroll down to position 1847. Zalthok felt a chill run through his carapace as he followed the order. The hologram shifted, moving down through hundreds more entries. Most were species he'd barely heard of. Pre-industrial civilizations that should barely register on the galactic scale. Then he saw it. Position 1847 belonged to something called humans, from a small, unremarkable system designated as Sol 3 in the Academy databases. The entry was marked with several unusual symbols he didn't recognize. "I've never heard of these humans," Zalthok admitted. "Why is this significant?" Korv's image leaned forward. "Because, Commander, yesterday that same species was listed at position 2,847,691. The bridge went dead silent. Even the background hum of the ship's engines seemed to fade. Zalthok stared at the hologram. Certain, he had misheard. That's impossible, sir. No species can jump nearly 3 million positions in a single year. The Academy's algorithms are too sophisticated for such an error." "That's what we thought too," Korv replied grimly. "But I've confirmed it with 3 separate sources. These humans have somehow advanced almost 3 million positions in the galactic dominance rankings." Glix's 6 arms trembled slightly as he pulled up additional data on the human entry. "Sir, according to the files, they're a carbon-based species from a single planet. No major space presence, no significant military installations, limited technology compared to galactic standards." "Then how?" Zalthok demanded, though he wasn't sure if he was asking Glix, Korv, or the universe itself. Korv's expression darkened further. "That's what we need to find out. I'm ordering a full investigation. Pull together a research team and head to this Sol system. I want to know everything about these humans, their capabilities, their technology, their intentions. A jump of this magnitude doesn't happen by accident." As the communication ended, Zalthok found himself staring at the innocent-looking entry for humans. The ranking system had stood unchanged for thousands of years. Species moved up or down gradually, by dozens or maybe hundreds of positions over decades of development. What could possibly cause such a massive shift? Glix, begin preparations for hyperspace jump to the Sol system, and send word to the research division. I want our best xenobiologists and technology analysts on this mission. Yes, sir. Estimated travel time to Sol 3 is 47 standard days. Zalthok nodded, but his attention remained fixed on the hologram. Around the galaxy, he knew other commanders were having similar conversations. Other species were questioning what they thought they knew about galactic hierarchy. The humans had caught everyone's attention now. The question was whether that was intentional, or if they even knew what they had done. As the Times Eternal Conquest Times began its preparations for the journey to Sol, Zalthok couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything. 3 million positions didn't happen overnight. Something was very, very different about these humans, and in 47 days, he would find out exactly what that something was. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath her feet. The blue marble looked peaceful from up here, completely unaware that it had just become the center of galactic attention. "Dr. Chen, you need to see this," called out her colleague, Dr. James Rodriguez, from the communications array. His voice carried an unusual tension that made Sarah push off from the viewing window and float over to his station. "What is it, James?" "We're picking up some strange signals. Multiple sources, all on frequencies we've never seen before. And they're all aimed directly at Earth." Sarah frowned as she examined the readouts on his screen. The patterns were unlike anything in their databases, too complex for natural phenomena, too organized for random noise. "Could be solar interference," she suggested. Though, even as she said it, she knew it didn't fit the patterns they were seeing. "That's what I thought initially, but look at this." James pulled up another screen, showing signal trajectories. "These are coming from at least 12 different vectors, all from beyond our solar system. The closest origin point I can calculate is about 47 light-years away." Sarah felt her stomach clench. In her 20 years of space research, she'd never seen anything like this. Have you contacted Houston? They're analyzing it now, but Sarah, there's something else. The signals aren't random, they're structured. Almost like... He paused, running calculations on his tablet. Like they're scanning us. Before Sarah could respond, their communication system crackled to life with an urgent transmission from Earth. ISS, this is Mission Control Houston. We need you to prepare for an emergency briefing with Dr. Marcus Webb from the Department of Defense. Stand by for secure channel. Sarah and James exchanged worried glances. Dr. Webb only contacted them when something serious was happening. Very serious. The secure channel engaged with a series of electronic tones, and Dr. Webb's familiar voice filled the station. Sarah, James, I need you both to listen carefully. What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. But given your position, you need to know. Yesterday, we received communication from an organization calling itself the Academy of Celestial Sciences. Sarah's hand gripped the nearest handhold. Academy of what? Celestial Sciences. According to their message, they're a galactic institution that monitors and ranks all spacefaring species in this region of the galaxy. Apparently, we've been on their list for quite some time. That's impossible, James interrupted. We would have detected signals from advanced alien civilizations by now. Where are they? 1. That's where it gets interesting, Dr. Webb continued. They claim to have been watching us for millennia, but only recently have we warranted their direct attention. It seems we've jumped dramatically in something called their Galactic Dominance rankings. Sarah felt the room spinning around her, though she knew that was impossible in zero gravity. Dr. Webb, are you saying we've made contact with aliens? Multiple alien species, actually. The Academy represents over 3 million different civilizations, and according to their initial communication, humanity has just moved from position 2,847,691 to position 1,847 inches their rankings. The silence stretched for several seconds. Sarah's scientific mind raced through the implications, while simultaneously rejecting the impossibility of it all. How? James finally managed to ask. That's what everyone seems to want to know. The Academy's message indicated that several advanced species are now en route to Earth to investigate what they call the human anomaly. The first ships should arrive within the next month and a half. Sarah's training kicked in, overriding her shock. What kind of criteria do these rankings measure? That's partially classified, but I can tell you it involves military capability, technological advancement, resource control, territorial expansion, and population dynamics. The problem is, by most of those measures, we shouldn't rank anywhere near 1,847. Then how did we jump nearly 3 million positions? James asked. Dr. Webb's voice carried a note of confusion that Sarah had never heard from him before. That's what we're trying to figure out. The Academy provided some preliminary data, but it's difficult to interpret. They mentioned something called adaptive potential and exponential development curves that apparently factor heavily into their calculations. Sarah stared out at Earth again, trying to process the magnitude of what she was hearing. Dr. Webb, what aren't you telling us? A long pause followed. The Academy's preliminary assessment suggests that humanity exhibits what they term unprecedented evolutionary velocity. According to their models, we're developing and advancing at rates they've never recorded in any other species. But that doesn't make sense, James protested. Our technology hasn't advanced that dramatically in the past year. That's just it, Dr. Webb replied. They're not just measuring our current technology. Their ranking system projects future potential based on observed development patterns, and apparently, our patterns are unique. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Unique how? The Academy provided some historical context. Most species develop along predictable curves. They advance steadily in certain areas. Maybe they improve their energy efficiency, or develop better materials, or expand their territorial control. But the advancement follows patterns the Academy has observed thousands of times before. And we're different? Humanity appears to be advancing simultaneously across multiple vectors at exponential rates. We're not just improving our technology, we're revolutionizing our understanding of fundamental principles at a pace that apparently defies their models. James pulled up some of his own research data on a side screen. Dr. Webb, could you be more specific about what they're seeing? They highlighted several factors: our rapid development of quantum computing, advances in genetic engineering, the pace of our space exploration, improvements in artificial intelligence, developments in nuclear fusion, and our social adaptation rates. Individually, none of these would be remarkable. But the Academy says no species has ever advanced simultaneously in so many areas so quickly. Sarah felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. They're not measuring where we are now, they're measuring where we're going. Exactly. And according to their projections, if we maintain our current development trajectory, we'll be among the top 100 galactic civilizations within 50 years. The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. Dr. Webb, you're saying that alien civilizations are coming to Earth because they're afraid of our potential? Not afraid, necessarily. But definitely concerned. The Academy's message made it clear that rapid advancement often leads to unpredictable behavior. They want to evaluate whether humanity represents a threat to galactic stability. James had gone pale. What happens if they decide we're dangerous? The pause that followed was longer than Sarah would have liked. The Academy mentioned that there are protocols for dealing with species that pose potential threats to galactic order. They didn't elaborate, but the implication was clear. Sarah stared out at Earth's blue surface, watching clouds swirl over continents filled with billions of people who had no idea their planet was about to become the subject of an alien investigation. Dr. Webb, for now, we continue normal operations but remain alert for any unusual activity. The first alien ship should arrive in approximately 6 weeks. When it does, humanity will face its first formal evaluation by galactic civilization. As the communication ended, Sarah and James floated in stunned silence, watching their home planet turn slowly in the void. Somewhere out there, alien ships were already traveling toward Earth, carrying representatives of civilizations humanity couldn't even imagine, and in 6 weeks, they would discover whether humanity's rapid advancement was seen as a gift to the galaxy or a threat that needed to be contained. Commander Zalthok's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, and immediately his sensors began picking up readings that made no sense. "Report," he ordered, settling into his command chair as the bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. "Sir, the system is active," reported Scanner Officer Yix, her crystalline form pulsing with confused colors. "Far more active than our intelligence suggested." "Define active." "Multiple artificial satellites in orbit around the third planet, sir. Several space stations, ongoing construction projects, and, sir, there are humans on their moon." Zalthok's mandibles clicked in surprise. According to their files, humans had barely achieved basic spaceflight. Having a permanent presence on their moon suggested capabilities well beyond what the Academy had initially recorded. How many humans? Scanner readings indicate approximately 12 individuals in a semi-permanent installation. They appear to be conducting scientific research and resource extraction. Glix approached with a datapad, his 6 arms moving in agitation. "Commander, we've completed preliminary scans of human communication networks. The results are unsettling." "Show me." The main display lit up with a complex web of electromagnetic signals flowing around and between the planets in the Sol system. Earth itself was wrapped in an intricate shell of communication satellites, while lines of data stretched out to installations on the Moon, several asteroids, and what appeared to be a research station orbiting Mars. This level of system-wide communication infrastructure typically indicates a Type 1.2 civilization on the Kardashev scale. Glix reported. "Our files suggested humans were barely Type 0.7. Zalthok studied the display with growing unease. "How old is our intelligence on this species?" "The most recent comprehensive survey was conducted 87 years ago, sir." 87 years? Zalthok's voice rose to a roar that caused several junior officers to flinch. "How could we have such outdated information on a species that's jumped 3 million positions?" "Sir, at their previous ranking, they weren't considered strategically significant." The Academy only conducts detailed surveys of the top 50,000 species every standard cycle. Zalthok felt his multiple hearts racing. 87 years of unmonitored development. For a species advancing as rapidly as the humans apparently were, that might as well be an eternity. Begin intensive scanning. I want to know everything. Population, technology levels, military capabilities, resource control. Everything. Over the next several hours, the reports that came in painted an increasingly troubling picture. Human population had nearly doubled since their last survey. Their energy consumption had increased by over 400%. Most alarming of all, their technological development showed signs of exponential acceleration. "Sir," called out tech analyst Quorm, "I'm detecting quantum manipulation signatures from multiple points on the human planet." "Quantum manipulation?" Zalthok's carapace tingled with alarm. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. The signatures are consistent with early-stage quantum computing and quantum communication arrays, also detecting what appears to be experimental quantum teleportation research." Zalthok felt the bridge spinning around him. Quantum manipulation was typically achieved by species ranked in the top 500. How were humans at position 1,847, demonstrating such advanced capabilities? "There's more, sir," Quorm continued. "I'm also reading genetic manipulation signatures, artificial intelligence networks of surprising sophistication, and what appears to be early-stage antimatter research." "Antimatter?" Glix's scales had gone a sickly green color. "Sir, antimatter technology typically doesn't appear until species reach the top 200 rankings." The communication station suddenly erupted in activity. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's directed specifically at us." Zalthok felt his breathing quicken. "How could they know we're here? Our ships are cloaked." "Unknown, sir. But the message is definitely intended for us. It's coming from a facility called NASA, and it's being transmitted on frequencies that require sophisticated understanding of subspace communication." "Put it through." The main screen shimmered and resolved into the image of a human male wearing what appeared to be a formal uniform. He had the typical human features Zalthok had seen in the Academy files: 2 eyes, 1 nose, no visible natural weapons or armor. Yet something in his demeanor suggested confidence that seemed at odds with his species ranking. "Greetings," the human said, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "I am Dr. Marcus Webb, representing the government of Earth. We detected your arrival in our solar system and wanted to extend our welcome." Zalthok exchanged glances with Glix. "Humans' new galactic standard? And they could detect cloaked ships?" "Human," Zalthok replied cautiously. "I am Commander Zalthok of the Crexian Empire. We are here on behalf of the Academy of Celestial Sciences to investigate your species' recent advancement in the galactic rankings." The human's facial features shifted in what their files indicated was called a smile, apparently a sign of friendliness or amusement. "We received the Academy's initial contact yesterday, Doctor," Webb replied. "We're honored by the attention, though I admit we're somewhat confused about the significance of these rankings. We'd be happy to host a delegation if you'd like to visit Earth directly." "You would welcome an alien visitation?" "Dr. Commander Zalthok, if I may ask, how long has the galactic community known about humanity?" The question caught Zalthok off guard. "We have maintained observational records for several thousand of your years." "I see. And in all that time, no one thought to make contact?" Zalthok's mandibles clicked nervously. "Your species was not considered significant enough for direct contact protocols." The human's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "I understand. And now we've suddenly become significant. May I ask what changed?" "Your species appears to be developing at unprecedented rates," Zalthok admitted. "The Academy's algorithms suggest you've achieved advancement levels typically associated with civilizations, ranking in the top 2,000. "Interesting. And this concerns you?" Zalthok hesitated. Standard protocol called for careful diplomatic language. "But something about this human's directness, seem to demand honesty. Rapid advancement often leads to aggressive expansion and unpredictable behavior, he said finally. The Academy has protocols for species that might threaten galactic stability. The human nodded slowly. I see. So this isn't really a friendly visit. You're here to determine whether humanity poses a threat. We are here to understand, Zalthok said carefully. Dr. Webb was quiet for a moment, apparently considering something. When he spoke again, his tone had changed slightly. Commander, would you be surprised to learn that humanity has been aware of galactic civilization for approximately 6 months? Zalthok felt his blood chill. Impossible. How could you? We've been monitoring galactic communication networks since we achieved quantum communication capability, the human continued calmly. We know about the rankings, the Academy, the major galactic powers. We know that several species are currently en route to Earth to investigate what they're calling the human anomaly. The bridge fell silent. Zalthok stared at the human on the screen, trying to process what he was hearing. If you've known about us for months, why haven't you made contact? Dr. Webb's smile returned, but this time it seemed different. Calculating. Because, Commander, we've been learning. And what we've learned suggests that making contact before we were ready might not have been in humanity's best interests. Zalthok felt a chill run through his carapace. The human's words carried implications that terrified him. Are you saying humanity has been preparing for this encounter? I'm saying, Commander, that humanity doesn't like surprises. We prefer to be ready for whatever might come our way. As the communication ended, Zalthok stared at the blank screen, realizing that everything they thought they knew about humans might be wrong. These weren't primitive beings stumbling accidentally into galactic significance. They were something else entirely. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood in the Situation Room deep beneath NORAD, watching as status boards displayed information that would have been science fiction just days ago. Representatives from 15 different alien species were now in system, and more arrived every few hours. Admiral, we're receiving another arrival notification, reported Colonel Martinez from the communications station. This one identifies itself as the Thermal Lord's exploration vessel times Starhammer **. Elena nodded grimly. The Thermal Lords held 4th place in the galactic rankings, beings who could manipulate stellar energy as a weapon. Their arrival meant this investigation was being taken seriously at the highest levels. Any hostile actions from any of the fleets? No, ma'am. They're maintaining position at the edge of our solar system, but our quantum sensors indicate they're conducting intensive scans. Dr. Webb entered the room carrying a tablet that glowed with alien script. Admiral, we've received formal communication from something called the Academy Evaluation Committee. They're requesting permission to establish a research station in Earth orbit. There, Elena studied the alien text on his screen. 6 months ago, none of them could have read it. Now, thanks to their crash program in galactic linguistics, she could make out the basic meaning. What kind of research? They want to conduct what they call comprehensive species assessment protocols. According to their message, this involves psychological evaluation, technological assessment, cultural analysis, and military capability testing. Testing? Elena's voice sharpened. What kind of testing? Testing. Dr. Webb scrolled through the document. The details are vague, but they mention controlled challenge scenarios and stress response analysis. It sounds like they want to see how we react under pressure. Colonel Martinez looked up from his station. Admiral, we're detecting new movement from the alien fleets. It looks like they're beginning to move into formation. Elena watched the tactical display as 15 different alien ships began arranging themselves around Earth's solar system. Each vessel was larger than anything humanity had ever built, and their formation suggested they were preparing for something. Admiral, Doctor, Webb said quietly. There's something else in the Academy message. They mention that if humanity refuses to undergo evaluation, it will be considered an indication of hostile non-cooperation and will result in immediate ranking adjustment. Ranking adjustment? According to the galactic records we've been analyzing, species that refuse Academy evaluation are typically reclassified as galactic security risks and moved to a special category outside the normal rankings. Elena felt her jaw tighten. And what happens to galactic security risks? The silence that followed answered her question. Ma'am, Colonel Martinez called out urgently. We're receiving a direct transmission from the lead Academy vessel. It's addressed specifically to you. The main screen activated, displaying a creature unlike anything from Earth's evolutionary history. It appeared to be made of living crystal, with multiple faceted eyes and appendages that shifted between solid and gaseous states. Admiral Vasquez, the being spoke in perfect English. I am Coordinator Zixtal of the Academy Evaluation Committee. We have reviewed Earth's response to our investigation request and find it adequate. However, formal evaluation protocols must now begin. Elena stepped forward. Coordinator Zixtal. Humanity appreciates the Academy's interest in our development. However, we have some questions about these evaluation protocols. Questions are expected, the crystal being replied. However, participation is not optional. Species that achieve significant ranking advancement must undergo assessment to ensure galactic stability. And if we refuse, the creature's crystalline form pulsed with colors that somehow conveyed amusement. Refusal is not possible, Admiral. The Academy has maintained galactic order for over 2 million years. Species comply with evaluation protocols, or they are removed from consideration entirely. Elena felt her blood pressure rising. Removed how? Through whatever means proved necessary. The threat was unmistakable. Elena glanced around the room at her team, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. Humanity hadn't clawed its way up from caves and learned to split atoms just to submit to alien bureaucrats. Coordinator, before we agree to any evaluation, we'd like to understand exactly what criteria you're using. Our rapid advancement seems to have surprised everyone, including us. The crystal being's form shifted, displaying what might have been confusion. You are unaware of your own developmental acceleration. We're aware we've been making progress, but nothing that would justify jumping nearly 3 million positions in your rankings. Coordinator Zixtal was silent for several moments, apparently communicating with others Elena couldn't see. This is unusual, it finally said. Most species are acutely aware when they achieve breakthrough advances. Admiral, are you stating that humanity is unaware of achieving technological singularity? Elena felt the room temperature drop. Technological singularity? The point at which a species' technological development becomes self-accelerating and exponential. Based on our models, humanity achieved this milestone approximately 1.3 standard years ago. Dr. Webb stepped forward. Coordinator, could you elaborate on what indicators you're seeing? The being's form pulsed again. Your artificial intelligence networks have achieved recursive self-improvement. Your quantum computing capabilities have enabled breakthrough advances in multiple scientific disciplines simultaneously. Your genetic engineering has begun optimizing your species' biological capabilities. Most significantly, you have achieved what we term cross-domain knowledge integration at unprecedented levels. Elena exchanged glances with Dr. Webb. They had made significant advances in all those areas, but she hadn't realized how dramatic they appeared from an outside perspective. Coordinator, many other species must have achieved similar breakthroughs. What makes humanity different? Quote, the velocity. The crystal being replied immediately. Most species require millennia to progress from early spaceflight to technological singularity. Humanity has done so in less than 1 century. This rate of advancement has no precedent in Academy records. Colonel Martinez spoke up from his station. Admiral, I'm detecting quantum signatures from several of the alien vessels. It looks like they're powering up weapons systems. Elena felt her training take over, pushing aside the surreal nature of the situation. Coordinator, Zixtal, are your ships preparing to attack? Not attack, Admiral. The evaluation protocols include stress testing. We must observe how humanity responds to various pressures, including the threat of annihilation. Elena's hand moved instinctively toward the emergency alert button that would trigger Earth's defense protocols. You're threatening our planet as part of a test? We are observing your reactions to determine whether humanity's rapid advancement poses a threat to galactic stability. Species that respond to pressure with aggressive expansion or xenophobic isolation are typically classified as dangerous. And species that respond to threats by fighting back? The crystal being paused. That depends entirely on how effectively they fight. Elena felt a cold smile cross her lips. Around the room, her team was already moving to battle stations. Their earlier nervousness replaced by grim determination. Coordinator Zeekstal, you should know something about humans before you proceed with your stress test. Indeed, we've been studying your communications and your technology for months. We know about your weapons, your defenses, your tactical doctrines. We also know something you apparently don't. The alien's form shifted to colors Elena was beginning to recognize as curiosity. While you were traveling here to evaluate us, Elena continued, we weren't sitting still. We've been preparing. Preparing how, Admiral? Elena's smile widened. You're about to find out. Colonel Martinez, activate the Prometheus defense grid. Around Earth's solar system, installations that had appeared to be simple scientific satellites suddenly revealed their true nature. Quantum-enhanced energy weapons, powered by fusion cores, came online, stealth-shielded missile platforms decloaked, and defensive barriers flickered to life around Earth and its moon. Coordinator Zixistal's crystalline form blazed with colors Elena suspected indicated alarm. This is impossible. Our scans showed no significant military infrastructure. Your scans showed exactly what we wanted them to show, Elena replied calmly. Did you really think a species capable of jumping 3 million ranking positions would be unprepared for visitors? On the tactical display, Admiral Elena watched as 15 alien fleets suddenly found themselves facing defenses they hadn't known existed. Operated by a species they were beginning to realize they had severely underestimated. Coordinator, she said quietly, I believe your evaluation protocols are about to become much more interesting. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. When the quantum dust settled, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood in the NORAD command center, watching as the remnants of 15 alien fleets regrouped at the edge of the solar system. 3 of their vessels had been completely disabled, 2 more were limping on emergency power, and the rest had discovered that their supposedly superior shields were no match for weapons they couldn't understand. Admiral, Colonel Martinez reported, his voice filled with amazement, all alien vessels have powered down weapons and are requesting immediate communication. Elena nodded calmly, though inside she felt her heart hammering. The gamble had worked. 6 months of frantic preparation, every scientist and engineer on Earth working around the clock to turn theoretical breakthroughs into practical weapons systems, all leading to this moment. Put Coordinator Zixtal through. The crystal being appeared on screen, but its form had changed dramatically. Where before it had displayed the shifting colors of calm authority, now it pulsed with rapid, chaotic patterns. Elena suspected indicated shock. Admiral Vasquez, it began, its voice carrying overtones that suggested deep confusion. We must request immediate clarification of what just occurred. You conducted a stress test, Elena replied evenly. We responded appropriately. Your weapons. The being paused, apparently struggling with concepts it couldn't process. Our analysts cannot determine how your defensive systems function. The energy signatures don't match any known technology in Academy databases. Dr. Webb stepped into view. Coordinator, you mentioned that humanity has achieved technological singularity. What you didn't consider is that we've been in exponential development mode for over a year. Our weapons aren't based on technology that existed when you began your journey here. Impossible. No species develops new fundamental technologies in mere months. Elena smiled. Coordinator, I think you're beginning to understand why humanity jumped 3 million positions in your rankings. The crystal being's form went completely still for several seconds. When it resumed pulsing, the colors were ones Elena had never seen before. Admiral, we must speak with the Academy Council immediately. This situation exceeds all known evaluation parameters. Of course. Dr. Webb, prepare a data package for transmission to the Academy. Include our technological development timeline, current capabilities, and projected advancement curves for the next standard year. As Dr. Webb worked, Elena studied the alien fleets on her tactical display. Moments ago, they had represented the most advanced military forces in known space. Now they hung in space like wounded animals, trying to comprehend how a species that barely registered on the galactic scale had just demonstrated technological superiority. "Admiral," Dr. Webb said quietly, "the data package is ready, but you should know what we're about to reveal. Tell me, based on our current development trajectory, we're not just advancing rapidly, we're accelerating. If we maintain this pace, we'll achieve capabilities equal to the top 10 galactic civilizations within 5 years." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "And in 10 years? In 10 years, Admiral, there's a reasonable probability that humanity will surpass every existing galactic civilization." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. No wonder the aliens were concerned. They weren't just evaluating a rapidly developing species, they were looking at their potential replacement. "Coordinator Zeekstal," Elena said, turning back to the screen, "we're transmitting our development data to the Academy Council now. I think they'll find it illuminating." 1. The transmission took several hours to compile and send. During that time, Elena watched as more alien ships arrived in system, drawn by emergency signals from the evaluation fleets. By the time the data package was complete, over 50 vessels representing dozens of galactic civilizations hung at the edge of Earth's solar system. The Academy Council's response arrived faster than Elena had expected. "Admiral Vasquez," a new voice said as the communication channel activated. The speaker was invisible, but its presence seemed to fill the room with an oppressive weight. "I am Prime Coordinator Veltar. The Academy Council has reviewed your data, and your development timeline is impossible. No species achieves such advancement without external intervention. We must conclude that humanity has received technological assistance from an advanced civilization." Elena felt her patience wearing thin. "Prime Coordinator, we haven't received assistance from anyone. We've been developing on our own." "Impossible. The technologies you've demonstrated require centuries of research and development. Your quantum manipulation alone should have taken your species 500 years to perfect." Dr. Webb stepped forward. "Prime Coordinator, may I suggest an alternative explanation?" "Speak. What if the Academy's models are wrong? What if there's something about humanity that doesn't fit your existing paradigms?" The oppressive presence seemed to intensify. "Explain." Every galactic civilization developed along similar patterns, gradual advancement in specific areas over extended timeframes. But what if humanity develops differently? What if we're naturally suited for rapid, cross-disciplinary advancement? Elena felt pieces clicking into place. "Dr. Webb, are you suggesting we're evolutionarily different?" "Admiral, think about human history. We're the only species we know of that went from stone tools to spaceflight in just 10,000 years. We're the only species that regularly makes intuitive leaps that skip entire developmental stages. What if that's not accidental? What if that's just how humans work?" Prime Coordinator Veltar's voice carried new overtones of concern. "You are suggesting that humanity is naturally suited for exponential development?" "I'm suggesting," Dr. Webb replied, "that humanity doesn't develop the same way other species do. We don't follow linear progression. We make connections across disciplines, combine unrelated concepts, and achieve breakthroughs through methods other species might consider chaotic or impossible." Elena watched the tactical display as the alien fleets shifted formation. She could sense their growing unease. "Prime Coordinator, the Academy has a choice to make," she said finally. "You can continue trying to fit humanity into your existing models, or you can accept that we represent something new. And if we determine that humanity poses an unacceptable risk to galactic order?" Elena's voice hardened. "Then you'll discover that the weapons you saw today are just the beginning. We've been preparing for all possibilities, Prime Coordinator, including the possibility that first contact might not go well." The silence stretched for several minutes. Elena could imagine the Academy Council debating, running calculations, trying to determine how to handle a species that defied all their predictions. When Prime Coordinator Veltar spoke again, its tone had changed. Admiral Vasquez, the Academy Council offers humanity formal recognition as a sovereign galactic civilization. We are prepared to grant you immediate advancement to position 847 inches the galactic rankings, with full diplomatic privileges and trade access. Elena exchanged glances with her team. Position 847 would make humanity a mid-tier galactic power overnight. Prime Coordinator, we appreciate the offer, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Indeed, we're not looking for a position in your existing hierarchy. We're going to create our own. The oppressive presence intensified to almost unbearable levels. You are rejecting Academy authority? We're declaring independence, Elena replied calmly. Humanity will engage with galactic civilization on our own terms, as equals. And if other species object to this presumption? Elena smiled. Prime Coordinator, I think your evaluation has answered that question. We've been preparing for objections. As the communication ended, Elena stood in the command center, watching 50 alien warships, maintaining their distance from Earth. 6 months ago, humanity had been alone in the universe. Now they were announcing their arrival on the galactic stage, not as supplicants seeking acceptance, but as a new power that intended to reshape the cosmic order. The Academy's rankings no longer mattered. Humanity had just declared that they were going to write their own rules. And based on the way the alien fleets were keeping their distance, Elena suspected those rules were going to be very different from anything the galaxy had seen before.